Things that's been on my mind, it's like recently, it's just been highlighted to me more than ever. You know, a lot of people go for qualifications in coaching and they
Yeah.
get very traditional stuff.
Yeah.
And some people in particular who I've been kind of mentoring in a way, and they said, the way you're coaching is so different from what we've been taught in these schools. And they said, and it's fun sometimes as well.
You're fun. Yeah, of course.
And I realized that more than ever, that contrast between, you know, really engaging, showing up, and as opposed to being attached to a process.
It's very risky, though, for younger people to think like this. I think from their perceptual view.
How do you mean risky?
Well, I think, for example, if I just take you and me, you know, we have established ourselves through that process of certification. And even though for me, certification was never, it never fulfilled kind of a deep desire. It was a step along the way. And I would say we've established ourselves at a certain age, you know, developmental age-wise. We established ourselves, have confidence in what we establish. So there's this firm grounding. So then the freedom to be free, really. And the risk, I think, for younger people is, are you willing to take that risk now, as opposed to waiting, you know, and getting frustrated and suddenly just either being fired or stepping out of your corporate existence. And certification is about that. You know, I remember David Gordon saying, you know, very early on when we first started working in the certification process, said this doesn't matter, you know, and I would look around and people would watch their reactions, and it was like, yeah, it did matter. You know, it's like, how do you deal with that?
Yes, I think we should be recording this too.
Oh, okay.
Well, it probably is being recorded, actually. So, because I think that's so significant. There are so many people who feel that they need all those. They're attached to the certifications.
Yeah.
And
I think that certification actually gives them an identity, which is, you know, part of the work, right? Is that you have to establish your identity, you know, first.
And you think the certification is part of that?
I think it's how younger people particularly can see that they can establish an identity. Yes. I don't think it's the only way you have to. I think, but that's where the risk is. Yes. I think the risk is, are you going to establish your identity on your own, or are you going to use the external validation to give you an identity where eventually you have to do it on your own anyway? You have to release that attachment.
Yes.
Eventually, I mean, to really mature, you have to give up, you know, your certifications as your identity. Yeah. You know, it's just like many people in corporate life have to give up the security of, you know, yes, I'm an IBM or I'm a Googler or I'm a, you know, whatever, you know.
When I think about the people who I think have really progressed on this route, I mean, they've dedicated themselves, right, maybe through, in some cases, through certification, but they've dedicated themselves to keep learning. And I see some people not realize that. I don't know how to sometimes emphasize that at the beginning. I've got some people, as I say, I'm kind of coaching, mentoring now, and I think they're realizing that and accepting that and buying into it, and that's very encouraging. That they're asking, what does it take to be this level? And I said, well, it does take years of discipline and commitment. So I think that is a very important part of it.
Yeah, and I think part of that for me is having what I would call a vision, but something like a vision, if not exactly a vision, that says, you know, whatever barriers or obstacles I'm encountering, they are not going to stop me from pursuing this vision. So for me, the vision has been really just wholeness, being whole, being whole to myself, right?
Yes.
And all the trials and tribulations that go with growing up, and becoming a young adult and having a career, and all those trials and tribulations were minimal compared to my desire to be whole.
And it's interesting because I think I thought for a while that I was whole. And who knows,
No, you are. And
but I thought I was when I wasn't.
oh, I would disagree.
Oh, would you?
Yeah. No, because I think at the core level, we all are whole, and really that's once we get that congruently, yeah, we kind of dip and and miss out and fail and do whatever, but that doesn't stop us from being whole.
I think I compromised myself a lot on the surface, though, without realizing that I was doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas I think there's still inevitably, I think, a touch of that, but nothing like the extent to which I was doing it, which I didn't really address. I
would just say that a missing piece I think you did have was that you did not consciously understand that you were whole and that you had choice.
Right. Yes. I think I was unwilling. I think you used the word risk.
Yeah.
Take the risks.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That preparedness to take those risks, to do something, be something whole, be myself, whatever that is. I can see people around me who are either kind of embarrassed by their situation or, apologetic for their situation, as opposed to accepting that's the situation.
Exactly.
And it seems so simple, doesn't it, on the outside? But
when you've gone through it, you look back, now it's much simpler.
That's simple. Yeah.
I totally resonate with that one. Yeah. Yeah.
So we have our example, and there's an example that we have when we're working together, I think, which strikes people particularly. What can we offer people?
Oh, great question. Well, if I reflect on us working together, and one of the things that strikes me about it is that we work in flow together.
Yes.
And I think what we have to offer has to do with not with our process, though our process is an example, but rather stepping into flow, which has to do with not knowing, has to do with being willing to take risks because you don't know, and you're trusting emergence, and with that comes, in my mind, a willingness to own our identities for who we actually are, not who we pretend to be or who we try and project ourselves to be or anything like that. But actually, for example, this idea of wholeness, that each person in the workshop is whole. Yes. But I would predict that 99% of them, or maybe 95 or 90, I don't know, but some large percent of them do not consciously know they're whole. They haven't had the reference experience of being whole. No. And so until you have that, I think it's very difficult to flow.
Or that they think that their whole is unacceptable.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think that it's almost like there's an ideal, I think, that some people hold, and they're saying, I don't match that ideal.
Yeah.
So they compromise.
Well, and that has to do with their perception that they're broken.
Yes, exactly.
So if you hold an internal representation that you're broken, then you'll never, it's I'm not enough. You'll never be enough.
Yes.
If you have that, if that's your filter. But once you make that shift into I am whole, who I am, the good, the bad, and the ugly, I'm whole.
Yes.
Right?
So I think that there's been a fundamental piece, and I remember the very last day of the NLP training I did with you, the very last day of the, what was the advanced training then, like a master's. Right. And that structure of holding space, which you did for me, to find that place of congruence.
Right.
And it being like so close, but the frustration of not knowing what to do to move, to make that difference. Right. And that holding space and until people find that place in themselves. I think that's such a simple structure, but such a profound one.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that. And I think that's part of what enables people to do it, is that we have the capacity to hold space. And many coaches don't have that at the depth that we have.
No. Or they have it and don't use it.
Right. So they don't have access to it. They do have it. We all have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
And again, there's, I suspect, like a fear of just what that means, how that plays out.
Yeah.
Like the silences. I used to shake in my shoes, with the silences you held at one time. But now.
Now you do. Oh, I love it. Wow. Yeah.
So what does that mean in practice? I can picture people. I'm picturing people who'll be there that I know so far, and just imagining that and how powerful that can be for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think what we're talking about is something, as you said, so simple and yet so profound, and it is not where I have been, certainly, which is doing things in order to get here.
Yes.
So okay, to start at the beginning, let's establish rapport with one another, and then we're prepared to take the next step. Okay, let's gather information about our desired outcome. Okay, what's our desired outcome? Emphasizing all those things in order to get someplace. And what I think we've done is we've gotten to that place, and now we're saying we're going to hold space for you to join us in the space you already are, but don't yet know you are.
Yes. Because the words that come through consistently from you to me, and I've been very resonating with these words recently, is like, what's your deepest truth?
Yeah.
Come from that place of the deepest truth. And I just had a particular, I'm not sure why, but a particular significance. I've thought about it with people and thought, I'm not experiencing deepest truth at the moment. But that would make a difference. Yes.
Yeah, that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
And I think too, I don't know how much we actually talk about this, but I think that understanding that our energetic presence is probably the most powerful intervention that we have to bring. Is as we, whether we sit in silence or whether we are interacting or whatever, coming from that internal state of our deepest truth and inviting them, no matter what we're talking about, to come from their deepest state of their truth, of who they are, and then making that conscious. Because I think that making the conscious is a really important step.
Yes.
Otherwise, they leave after the 2 days and they kind of thought that was a great experience, but it didn't sustain, and I have to do it again.
Yes.
And again until I get it.
Yeah.
So I think, our goal would be that they all get it.
And I'd like them to get it, like to bring it to like the environment, because what I also recognize is that sometimes people get it in one context.
Yeah.
But then they send out an email or they do an interview or they let it go and they don't don't realize it's relevant in all of these situations.
Right.
And that's what makes the difference.
Right.
And so I think there's a point of almost practically going, now let's take it into these situations that you face and experience it there so that you have it in all contexts.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Totally agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've experienced people I know have got it, and then I've been interviewed, by something. Well, hang on, this is you're not coming from that place at the moment. You're coming
Right.
from a very structured, your kind of question-centered place, and you think, didn't you realise, that actually it works here too?
Yeah. Yeah. Right on. Right on. Yeah.
Gosh, practical applications.
Yeah. Very NLP. I love it. Yeah.
Shall I pause there for a moment?
Yep.
Pause that one.